when I had questions about, gee, we want to modify this component. Being able to have that point person, they appreciated being a part of the conversation.
Not everyone makes the news, but behind every growth-driving experience, product, and transformation are experts who shape the outcome. Welcome to Behind the Growth, a podcast for digital leaders and those aspiring to become one. Each episode features a candid conversation with a remarkable individual. Join us as we focus on their struggles, wins, and lessons learned you won't find anywhere else. Let's get started.
Welcome to Behind the Growth. I'm your host, Mudassar Malik, and today we're celebrating Laura McCutchan, Director of Design at Mobile Live. Laura, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I know your word for the year is communication, and I thought that would be a fantastic topic for a podcast. But before we go there, I want to hear your story. I know you bring an amazing journey of professional and personal experiences, and I'd love for you to tell our listeners all about it.
Sure. I'm actually an American living in Canada. I'm originally from New York, where I went to art school. I have both my bachelor's and master's degree from Parsons School of Design, New York City. And I was an early adopter of the internet back in the mid to late 90s. So I started as a web designer. I entered art school as a graphic designer, and the internet became a thing. And I said, yeah, I want to do that. So I became a web designer, and I became a teacher pretty quickly because the need for web design classes was exploding, and leadership at Parsons within the digital design department said, Laura, you're good with people, you should be teaching. And I said, yeah, I'm on board with that. So I started there, and as I've been moving through my career, I've worked within a wide array of different industries, from publishing to finance to healthcare to all sorts of stuff, advertising. And my career has evolved from being a web designer into UI and UX, and then more recently, product design. And I'm sure within the next 5 years, we'll probably have a different title to describe the things that we do.
I'm quite sure you will. But then there's the other side of you as well. This like Laura is not all just work; she's also fun. So there's a lot going on the other side. I think that will add a lot of flavor to everything that you bring.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm a creative, and design is what I do for money. But what I do on the side when I'm not designing is I'm very passionate about music. I'm a DJ on the side. I've been DJing for like 25 years at this point, and have been in multiple cities through the US, Canada, and the UK. And during the pandemic, I've been DJing online.
Oh, are you performing live these days, or like is there another one happening this year or in the coming years?
Oh, yeah. I get booked for in-person stuff. It's challenging because due to the pandemic, a lot of venues have closed or things have really shifted. Lots of venues have been struggling. And now that things have opened back up, it's kind of a fight for who's DJing where and there's the space, because there's only so many Saturdays or Friday nights in a year. So it's a huge challenge. But yeah, I still get booked for stuff. Most recently, I was out in San Francisco for a DJ gig just at the end of November. And yeah, and I've gotten booked for something coming up next month.
Oh, lovely. Oh, I think maybe you've picked up enough hints to send me a pass one or the other days. All right, no, let's get back to communication. And so, do you believe communication and design are intrinsically linked?
100%. It's the very core of what a designer does. Because if we take a look at the components of what a designer does, they do more than design. If you're not a strong communicator, it's really difficult to work within this field. I mean, as someone who's also a teacher, I tell this to my students all the time, because I have lots of students who they declare themselves as being introverts, that they're very reserved. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to be a loud, extroverted type of person to be a designer, but you need to be a good communicator in order to navigate through the different
Mm,
personalities of people that you work with. You need
mm,
to be able to communicate within your team, and you need to be able to articulate why you made the certain design decisions that you've made. Because
mm,
designers, good UX designers are designing things based on data, not because we feel
mm,
like it.
mm,
They're very specific reasons why we do the things that we do. We take a look at data and we make our decisions based on those. And it's about
mm,
keeping the user at the forefront.
mm,
So
mm.
if you don't have communication in your arsenal of tools, it's not an easy job to be a designer.
No, I hear you. I hear you. But like you're definitely you have the exposure to really see what's the general trend. Do you find majority of the students or different people that you worked across in different organizations and environments? Do you see people generally struggle with it? Is that something that they have to work towards, or like the majority of it doesn't, come comfortably to it? Like, what do you just give us a sense of what's really going on?
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen a range of different work styles from different
Mm,
companies
mm,
where sometimes teams are very siloed.
mm,
And if you keep everybody line style where, oh, BAs or BSAs are here and designers are here and dev are over here and there's no
mm,
crossover, then the communication isn't there.
mm,
But if you have a culture of collaboration and you encourage a culture of communication where teams can reach out to each other and are speaking to each other, then it just makes everything a lot smoother and a lot easier to get the thing done.
mm. Yeah. No, I absolutely. And I just read something today that you can never over invest in communication. So I think that was very powerful. And do you think there's a specific channel? Like a lot of people feel that it's a lot of verbal. Is it written, or what? How do you communicate, or like this formats? So help us for the ones who want to pick up on this. Do you have something for them? Like, do you think that there is a specific channel or a format, or do you feel like no, any means works, and there's a different approach to it?
I think any means can work.
Mm,
It's very helpful to have things in email or having things within like Slack or a Google Chat or
mm,
Teams or whatever tools your team is using. Because
mm,
having things documented is really helpful because that way
mm,
when you say something that you don't just go off and an hour later go, wait a minute, what is it that we were talking about?
mm,
Because that, and I was diagnosed with ADHD just before the
mm,
pandemic started. So because I struggle with
mm,
attention and focus sometimes, I
mm,
want to make sure that I have things documented so that I don't miss anything. And like even recording conversations, recording meetings to go
mm,
back to it and be sure that like, hey, I didn't miss anything here.
mm,
It's all about what works for that specific team. Because if you say, oh, this is the thing for, we need to all do it this way, that might work for some, it doesn't work for others. So as far as channels, I think you need to do whatever fits well for your
mm,
specific team and
mm,
find out what that is. And this can be trial and error to kind of get an idea of like, hey, emails are best because then we've got threads and we can check back on those things. And then if there are specific things you need to stop and have a conversation with, then that's when you can, hey, let's jump on a Google call and make sure that we have this conversation. Because sometimes you just need to talk something through because
mm, mm,
somebody may have a specific idea and they go, yeah, I want to do this. But that isn't how design works. Like
mm,
design can't happen in a vacuum. So sometimes you need to talk something out.
mm,
Be like, well,
mm,
why do you want this?
mm,
So, and then you can have that conversation and then, oh, okay, let's make sure that we capture all this, document it, and
mm,
that communication is really open
mm.
because it's especially important with everybody working remotely.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So let's build on it. I'm curious, like, how do you see areas of improvement between this critical, I think, handovers. Let's if we call it handovers, the business to business analyst or project managers, and them to design, and the design to dev. So from your perspective, Are there any critical areas to improve communication? And how would you, if you could just walk me through one by one, where do you feel the gaps are, or like you reflect on them?
Sure. I think that when a project is about to embark, there needs to be
Mm,
a strong kickoff. All
mm,
people from all disciplines need to be at that table. Because if you
mm,
have a kickoff that's just BAs, then and you leave the designers and the developers out, you're going to end up with some problems
mm,
later down the road. If you leave one of those parties out, there's going to be a problem. Same thing with if designers aren't speaking to dev or don't have a relationship with the developers.
mm,
I mean, I frequently say with clients that designers are not order takers, that we're not just here to like take requests and make
mm.
mock-ups. We do so
No,
much
you're just
more
not
than
there
that.
to make it pretty only?
We don't just
Oh,
make things pretty.
oh.
There's a lot of thought and a lot of stuff going on here, but I've also thought about it, and developers don't like being order takers either.
Hmm,
So
hmm,
having a conversation with developers and saying,
hmm,
hey, I'm thinking about this. Is this reasonable within this amount of time? And dev will tell you,
hmm,
yeah, this is going to be, this fits with the amount of time that we have, or, oh, this is actually a bigger effort. We might
hmm,
want to consider this. And that way it's way more collaborative. I
hmm,
mean, that way you have an actual team and not just an assembly line of like, here's a
hmm,
request, go do this. And now dev has to make it happen, because
hmm,
dev shouldn't be surprised when
hmm,
there's a handoff of mocks and be like, wait a minute, this is going to take longer to put together than we initially intended. And designers want to be able to help aid in the decision, because while everyone can participate in the design
hmm.
process, my hope is that folks trust in their designers and the experience that they bring to the table as well. But you don't
Yeah,
know these
no.
things if you don't talk.
Yeah, no, communication, going back to it, like I think makes a lot of sense. Would you build on it for me? Like, what would you propose? How do we fix this thing? Like, can you give me some more examples as what to really do, like between design and dev handoff? How would you approach it? What would be the fixer?
I think the fixer is just knowing who your team is and being
Mm-hmm.
able to know who you can reach out to. And that reaching out is not, I don't want reaching out to look like a sign of weakness, or like you don't know what you're doing,
Mm,
or that
mm,
you need help. Like, you should be able to have a
mm,
good working relationship that you can
mm,
reach out, so that way when requirements get settled, okay, these are the requirements that we're looking for, and what we need to do, that you can reach
mm,
out early.
mm,
Because if you've already gone through low to high fidelity mockups and then you're reaching out to the developer, it might be too
mm,
late. The
mm,
developer might say, that's more effort than we can do in this sprint.
mm,
And
mm,
then you're totally borked. So it's
mm,
like, okay, well, talk early so that you can catch these things ahead of time. And it's just about knowing who your team is and knowing who you can reach out to. Half of
mm,
our careers are about navigating different personality types. And some
mm,
people, I've encountered developers who are like, they own it and they don't want to, they think they know everything, and they don't want to
mm.
talk to you. And then
Yeah.
I've talked to other developers who they bring some good perspective to the project and might have something that a designer hasn't thought about, and say, well,
Mm,
what about this? And that way, having that different range of perspectives can only
mm.
broaden and enrich the product at the end.
Yeah. Any tools specifically, or like design thinking exercises, or are there some workshops, or anything specific there?
I think the design thinking process, I love and hate that word, that phrase, design
It's been
thinking.
used in every used in every possible
Mm.
dimension.
Well, it becomes a buzzword, and then it means
Yeah.
nothing, which
Mm.
which is terrible, because
Yeah.
people want to be a part of the creative process because it's
Mm,
fun. And frankly, I think
mm,
the designers know how to have a good time. So, but as far as the design thinking goes, it's about educating what it
mm,
is and what those
mm,
steps are, so
mm,
that people can take part in it. So if they're not, even if their title isn't necessarily a designer, that there's a shared understanding and that it's open, so that, oh, okay, in the first phase of design thinking, we just need a good solid discovery phase. Not that like is that way a business analyst doesn't come to you and say, yeah, we need to put a button on a page. Like,
Mm,
why do we need to put a button on this page? What is it doing
mm,
here? What is our actual objective here? And
mm,
then that way designers can really like share the load in figuring out what are these requirements and what is it that we really need to do. And the devs
mm,
should be a part of that conversation as well, because then they can see, oh, okay, this is how we're going to meet those needs in this time.
mm,
And then
mm,
that way everybody can work together. I think, evangelizing the design thinking process is great. And I
mm,
think just having regular touch points so that work gets looked at and reviewed and questions can be asked and all that kind of stuff. So
mm,
I think some people are afraid to speak up, again, because they're more introverted or more
mm,
reserved. They don't want to look like they're bothering or
mm,
or that they
mhm,
don't know what they're
mhm,
doing. It's not about
mm.
that. It's just about having that openness on the team so that you can get the thing done.
I hear you. Let's also talk about any examples, poor or good communication and their impact.
Sure. One of the clients that I've worked with within the past year, I knew who I could consult
Hmm.
when I had questions about, gee, we want to modify this component and
Hmm.
what the ask is that's coming from the stakeholders. Is this feasible? And being able to have that point person, hey, can we have a conversation? And I could call him up and say, hey, what do you think about this? And then, they could say, first of all, they appreciated being a part of the conversation. They were like, thank you
Hmm.
for
Hmm. Hmm.
bringing this up. And then they could give me advice. Actually, this is not a big deal. This is not going to be a big effort. And I'd be like, okay,
Hmm.
good. Then
Hmm.
I've got that confirmed and I can move on with my life and do the thing. And then in other client situations, I've had environments where developers really own everything
Hmm.
and they weren't very open with their knowledge. And as I was trying to learn the portal that I was working on, they weren't super open with their knowledge and it made things very painful. It made, because I mean, all of us want to be able to enjoy our jobs. Like,
Hmm.
you want to wake up in the morning and go, okay, I'm going to go do my job. And you feel satisfied that you've done a decent job. And then you move on with your life. You don't
Hmm.
want to wake up and drag your knuckles into work because it's just painful. And I don't want to see that kind of painful, like, "Ugh, I just
Hmm.
have to slog through the rise and grind." It's awful. Like, nobody wants to work like that. So
Yeah.
as long as you've got a good flow of things, because yeah, there have been a couple weeks of
Hmm.
dealing with that particular client where the developers being in a call with them was just painful because it was just so they were condescending. They didn't want to share knowledge. They were very like, this is the way it's going to be. We think this is right. And I'd be like,
Hmm.
but this is not accessible. These colors don't work. And no,
Yeah.
they didn't want to hear it. So you pick and choose your battle.
Yeah. Do you think there is a stage in a project where there is a good time for, feedback and negotiation and all of that, but then there comes a certain point where you way past that stage, and now it is just get it done. Now put your head down and get into the role and get it done. So I think it's also a balance between when to kind of raise your hand and say, hey, I've got something that I want everyone's attention, and when it is time to just say, all right, this is it. I need to get it done.
Yeah. No, there's definitely you got to strike a balance in how it works for your particular team. Because I
Hmm.
think if you spend an appropriate time on discovery and research, if you take care of that stuff early and you have a broad scope of what it is that you're really looking to do, that makes the design development
Hmm.
process and all that stuff easier down the road.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if you cut corners in user research, that really can lead to a lot of compromises in the quality as you move forward in the project or the product. And if you don't spend a proper time on discovery, then how do you know that you're solving the right problem?
Hmm. Yeah. I think recognizing how to use communication and doing it right is a very important, process. I think it's something that even if you don't know, it's something that can be learned, and we must kind of strive for it. What's your advice for designers? I think you have some strong words for them, like something that you would want them to pick on. So, stage is yours. What do you have to say for them?
One of one of my favorite questions is why. And
Mm.
I think that should be the favorite question of all UX designers
Hmm.
is you should always be asking why.
Hmm.
Because if you're being handed requirements or this request comes in, there should be an understanding of why are we doing this? Because if
Hmm.
if it's not clear why you're doing this, then why are you bothering? Like it doesn't make any so I always have to go back to why. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What is it that we're looking to accomplish? Because again, breaking it down to get to the core of what the problem is that we're really trying to solve here. Because we're not just here making pretty pictures or making beautiful interface. We do that too, but we have to solve a problem because we're
Yeah.
here to serve users. And if
Hmm.
you don't think about your users, then I don't know what you're doing because the users is the U of UX and UI. So if you're not dealing with users, you're designing stuff for yourself, and you're designing stuff for yourself. That's stuff you can do in your own time. You can go paint and go express your creative self in other ways. But
Hmm.
as far as the land of business goes, you're thinking about users. You should be asking why.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's so important for to really understand why are you doing this thing? What is the expectation? Who's the end user? What are we trying to deliver? What's the experience we're trying to design? Or what is the overall impact that we're trying to generate? I think that's really critical. And I love that you said, why is small three letters, but very powerful. Often the ones you ask can also take time to really understand when they're trying to answer you. Oftentimes it can correct them. It can help them draw a better picture.
Yeah.
So there's tons of advantages to it. I think definitely ask why. So I love that. Well, Laura, we're coming up on our time, and I would like you to tell our listeners how can they reach out to you or connect if they want to.
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. Folks can feel free to drop me a line there. I'm not on social media all that much because it's just a lot, but I am available through there and I will eventually answer.
Fantastic. Laura, thank you for joining us today and an insightful conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Growth. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. This podcast is brought to you by Mobile Live, a team of digital experts specializing in designing experiences, building products, and scaling technology. For more episodes of Behind the Growth, please visit mobilelive.ca/podcast.